Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Sports on the Positive Tip. We have conversations at the intersection of sports and faith. I'm back here with Kenny Squared, and here's our opening. Kenny, trade deadline in the NBA passed, and Giannis is still a Buck. Ja is still a Grizzly. Your thoughts?
I think that as far as the Bucks go, I think they could probably get a better return the in the off season, which especially if a team like the Knicks has an early exit, you could probably up the price, or say the Celtics kind of implode, like you can probably get a better deal for him.
Yeah,
Ja, I still don't understand, but I guess they're thinking we'll see what happens.
yeah. I guess. That one was Giannis. It makes perfect sense the way you just broke it down, and we were kind of saying that you were really leaning on that side last week. John Moran, I'm not sure why the Grizzlies still have him. And maybe they're thinking the same thing as the Bucks, but um, I don't know. It's just odd that they would trade Jaren Jackson Jr. and not him. You know what I mean? But so Kenny, just a picture of this. You're getting dressed for work in the morning. You're ready to roll, and your boss calls you up and says, "You know what, Kenny? Stay home today. In fact, stay home until we call you." Thus, the plight of one of one Mr. Castellanos and with the Phillies. What do you make of that with Nick Castellanos? I mean, how are the Phillies even expecting now to get value for him? I mean, the guy could still hit.
I don't know. It's a I don't understand kind of what went wrong
Yeah,
as well,
yeah,
because like it doesn't seem like he was like that bad, but also I know like he is a little bit of a defensive liability.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, at this point, like you can't expect anyone to want to trade him.
yeah,
Like you'll just wait the 48 hours and cut
yeah.
him and go from there.
And there'll be teams lined up, I think, to give him a shot, especially as a DH with a lot of teams. And I think it was because he had the disagreements with the manager during the season. Who knows what happens in the clubhouse with him? I mean, this is the last year of a big contract he signed, and so I just found that whole thing really, really odd. But Castellanos was once good. I mean, he's been an all-star before. I mean, he definitely has been considered a very good player, but I don't understand why a team would put it out there that they're looking to get rid of him, and then yeah, don't even report to spring training. It just doesn't make sense to me. Shout out and a sad shout out to Terrence Gore, 34 years old, and he passes away after what his wife called a routine surgery. I remember him well with the Mets in 2022. Um, couldn't hit that well, but boy, oh boy, he was one of the fastest guys I think the Mets ever had. You remember him?
Oh yeah, he is like the definition of pinch runner that you
Yeah,
want on a postseason roster,
yeah,
because he can turn a walk into a double in like 2 seconds.
yeah, yeah. Very, very sad, and it just goes to show you how fragile life can be. At 34 years old. All right, we are going to get into wrap up the Super Bowl. Yawn. We're going to get into a lot of NBA. We're talking a little bit about, and you put a chart out there that we're going to post. I'll give you plenty of time to go over that. But I want to highlight tanking in the NBA, which seems to be a thing again. And it's just on full display. I'll talk about that. I'm sure you've seen some of that too. And this brawl with the Hornets and Pistons, we'll get into that for a second, for a few minutes, and then we'll hit some baseball. There's some interesting names out there for free agents, and then some inspiration. You ready to get this going?
Let's get into it.
This episode of Sports on the Positive Tip is brought to you by the Tavern Coffee House. Attention, coffee lovers! Are you craving the perfect cup of coffee to start your day? Well, look no further than the Tavern Coffee House. It's located at 12302 Buckeye Road in Cleveland, Ohio. You can also check them out and order your coffee at thetaverncoffee.com. Hey there, everybody. This is Kenny and
Kenny squared.
the Sports on the Positive Tip Podcast. Kenny, welcome back. So good to get together this once a week to just have some fun talking about sports. And so the Super Bowl, um, I don't know. I think the word for me is just disappointing, in terms of the excitement of the game. It seemed like the Patriots really were were never in it for me. Um, I mean, Drake May is going to be a star in the league, I think, but boy, he had a tough time. I want to give Seattle all the credit and not so much say that the Patriots played bad, because I thought that their defense was just spectacular. And Kenneth Walker, I thought was great. It seems like every time that they needed a big run, they needed a first down, they gave him the ball and he got it for them. But then I've taught so much. I even posted something about Sam Darnold and Jim Plunkett this past week on Facebook. It's so good to see him. Uh, Sort of what a great redemption story. So anyway, and there was really not much to hit there except, should Mike Vrabel had gone for the two-pointer after they scored, I'm not sure that it would have made a difference at all. Um, so Kenny, sum up the Super Bowl from your point of view.
Yeah, so there's a few things that really stick out to me. First of all, with the Seahawks, I think first of all, shout out to Sam Darnold, and I
Yeah,
think a good story of perseverance going through
yeah,
five teams and finally getting a championship. Like 3 years ago, we were talking about, well, yeah, this guy is washed. There's no shot for him. The only person that believed in him was Colin Cowherd. He's been a Sam Darnold believer since day one.
yeah,
Um, but then over the last 2 years, he's won more games than any other quarterback in the NFL. And I think it's a good testament. Like even going back to last year, obviously a disappointing end to the season with the Vikings, but then just being like, oh yeah, you're good. We're not even going to bother signing him. It's got to feel some type of way.
yeah,
But then he comes to Seattle and he's really done
yeah,
it. But I think bigger picture, it shows a new lane on how teams can build a Super Bowl winning roster.
yeah,
Because typically there's like two ways to do it. Either you have that Hall of Fame caliber quarterback that just like wills their way there, whether Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, whoever. But then the other lane was always a young, promising quarterback on a rookie deal, and then you surround them with weapons. Take San Francisco with Garoppolo, Brock Purdy the last few years, Jalen Hurts the last few years too.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and usually when you have like that guy that's not maybe a Hall of Famer, but like a good quarterback, you don't really do it. Like Dak Prescott the last decade. Like
yeah,
usually that wasn't the lane. But now they're showing if you get a good quarterback that can go from good to great, good head coaching, as well as a great defense, you can make it there. So that's good for them.
yeah,
Um, from the Patriots side, I think it kind of justifies two of the critiques people have had over the last couple months. The first one is that you didn't really play anyone that great during the playoffs. Um, and I'll get to my favorite stat that I've seen over the last few days here. Um, but like you really like let's take a look at it here. They've played great defenses and not good offenses. They played the Chargers with Justin Herbert, who's never played a good has never played a good playoff game, and also had an O line put together by duct tape. They then go to Houston, who has a great defense. CJ Stroud would have had a higher passer rating if he spiked the ball on every play. And then you go to the Broncos, where they're going with a backup quarterback in the snow. They didn't play a good offense, and that's why they were winning. It wasn't because Drake May was lighting it up.
yeah,
And that kind of leads me to point number two. Drake May was horrible in the playoffs. That's
yeah,
not to say he's not a good quarterback. That's not to say I wouldn't want him on my team. But he had a historically bad postseason. Um, Now, yes, probably part of that is attributed to the defense that he played. But still, he had the biggest drop off in 30 years of really every type of performance. I forgot the acronyms. I think maybe EPA or something along those lines. It's a very like analytical type of number, similar to WAR for
right,
baseball.
right,
Um, he had the lowest of that of any quarterback in the last 30 years.
yeah,
Like it was very bad. That's not to say that he can't be good. That's not to say that he won't win a Super Bowl. Historically, though, it will say that he's not because any second year quarterback that made the Super Bowl and lost has not made it back.
Yeah.
And only two quarterbacks in the last, I think, 50 years lost their first Super Bowl and came back and actually won one. Jalen Hurts and John Elway.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, but that's not to say that he can't be the third.
Yeah.
But I think what it really shows is the Patriots had a great year. They did benefit maybe a little bit from a soft schedule, which I don't really mind. Like you play who you play, you still have to play well. Drake May was consistent all year long, aside from the playoffs. Um, but I think in the end, I look at this stat and I'm like, yeah, this kind of explains it all. Points per drive. A weird stat I didn't really hear much about.
Points
The
per
Patriots
drive.
had a the
Yeah.
Patriots had a I don't know, like they scored basically slightly over the like they had like 50 something drives and they scored like 50 something points all postseason. Their points per drive was lower than the 2017 Cleveland Browns. They're like, why are you mentioning that team? That team went 0-60.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so that's how bad the Patriots offense was throughout the
Yeah.
playoffs. But once again, great head coach, great great stepping ground for them, and we'll see what happens next year.
Yeah, you broke that down beautifully. I was surprised their running back didn't have more. He was so good all year long, Ferguson. I was really surprised that I'm sorry, not Ferguson, Stevenson. I was surprised that he didn't, and it was through the whole playoffs that he didn't come through. Um, the while the NFL scheduling system is good, it's not perfect, right? And so when we see this happen, and this is the first time in my memory that I can remember a team turning it around this good and then getting to the Super Bowl. I'm talking about the Patriots, right? Because weren't they 3-14 or were they 4-13 the year before? I think 4-13 the year
Yeah,
before. And then to turn it around to 14-3. That's great. But what the NFL always does, because we see teams come up and be good the next year after a bad year because they do get a schedule of against teams that also weren't good the year before. So there's opportunity to really improve right away. Whereas that you see teams also that were really good. Let's just take the Chiefs, for example. KC Chiefs this past year, they're going to get the toughest schedule, right? And we also saw that with teams like the Ravens and the Bills where we're like, man, every week these guys are playing really good teams, you know? And so while I think that that holds a lot of merit, you see now a team like the Pats that had this almost dominant regular season, went on this great winning streak, but then when they do get to play these playoff teams whom they didn't play in the regular season, they struggled. And I agree with you. No shot against them. I would say they'll be a big contender next year. There's something to be said about experience. Now, again, the Chiefs, I mentioned them. There's a lot of other factors. Mahomes got hurt. Uh, some of their players have just gotten old, right before our eyes. They've tried to keep that team together as much as possible. But I think that when we look at a team like the Seahawks and the way that they were built, the Seahawks were right there except for the quarterback. And there's no knock on Geno Smith. I think Geno Smith is a serviceable NFL quarterback. He survived a lot as well. I'd love to see him kind of, do what Sam Darnold did. I don't think that's going to happen on the Raiders, um, but the Seahawks really built a team around defense, and then they just added this piece named Sam Darnold. And oh, by the way, they subtracted one of the best wide receivers in the league in DK Metcalf, but they filled him in with such good players. So I think what you said it holds a lot of weight, right? Where you the Seahawks built it on defense, but then they add a quarterback who they just knew was ready to take them to that next level, and sure enough, he does. And so I think it will be a a really good stepping stone for the Pats. But I think that for these next couple of years, I think you're going to see the Seahawks really competing, provided they can keep the core of that defense together and keep Sam Darnold. I mean, I'm not sure what the Vikings were thinking, but they got to be kicking themselves. And now the Vikings will probably pick up Kirk Cousins and kind of go back to him since Atlanta plans to cut him. Anything else stood out for you for the Super Bowl?
Honestly, it was such a snooze fest.
Yeah.
The something that is interesting, Drake May did set a record for most yards in a quarter, the fourth quarter. Um,
Really?
which
I did not know that.
he
I
had
didn't know
was
that.
like 230 yards or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's like when you look back and it's like, oh, like it wasn't that bad. Yes, it was.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was like
yeah.
90% of his yards were garbage time yards. Like
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, he's going to be good though. He took a big step this year. He's going to be good. And I will say the Super Bowl faith was on full display with him and Darnold and Kenneth Walker. So we could get into that a little bit later. So that wraps up the football season. I think that um, the football offseason has become almost as exciting as the NBA and not so much with MLB because MLB it just stretches out way too long. We'll get into how many interesting free agents are still out there, but I like how the NFL has that window, and you see so much change. And these players they just chase the money. You don't see teams saying, "I got to go play in New York" or "I got to go play in LA." They'll sign with Jacksonville or wherever. So it'll be really interesting to see what steps some of these teams that were very good that were in the playoffs, like Jacksonville, like Houston. What's the next step? San Diego, the LA Chargers. What next steps they take. Certainly a big offseason for the Jets, a big offseason for the Giants. So what do you just we will have plenty of time to talk about it, but what on your surface are you interested in this NFL offseason?
I'm interested to see how the draft goes. It's like the assumption is Mendoza's probably going to the Raiders, but like, what do the Jets do at number two? I think it's going to be
Yeah,
very interesting.
yeah,
Um, Kyler Murray, I think, is one to kind of keep an eye on.
yeah, yeah,
Um, because like now, once again, like this middle tier quarterback, like a guy that's going to benefit from Sam Darnold winning the Super Bowl is Daniel Jones. I
yeah.
know he's coming off of an Achilles injury. People are like, well, look at what he did. Um, but I think also with Sam Darnold, it's a very fitting end to a season that included 10 coaches getting fired, Mahomes, Lamar, Allen, or Lamar and Burrow all missing the playoffs, Daniel Jones leading the Colts to 8-1, and then being replaced by Philip Rivers, and also two Browns quarterbacks making the Pro Bowl.
Yeah. It was a nutty season. Certainly you couldn't have predicted this past season, for sure. I mean, it was a nutty season, and I'm fascinated to see. You mentioned the Browns. I'm fascinated to see a healthy Deshaun Watson what they do now. And with a new coach there, so this it's going to be a fascinating offseason, and the NFL will stay in the headlines. It seems like they do during the offseason. I think Mendoza is the top guy. I mean, but I have no idea what the Jets are going to do. They can't come back with Justin Fields as their starting quarterback. They've got to do something. So we'll see.
You
Um,
like that, Kirk Cousins? You like that?
to the Jets might be a good stopgap. But the thing is, the Jets always have a stopgap. They always seem to draft someone, whether it's Mark Sanchez, a little success, right? Actually, good success. And then they get rid of him, a stopgap. And then they draft Sam Donald. They get rid of him. Then another stopgap for a bit. They draft Zach Wilson and then they get rid of him. It just seems like a cycle, man. I like Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins still has a good year or two left in him. I mean, once he got cooking in Atlanta and they started doing play action, which he thrives in, they figured that out. I mean, they won their last four games, I think, in a row, and that offense was cooking. So I know he could still play. I think Cousins probably has another good year or two, at a high level. Um, would he help the Jets? Immediately, he would help the Jets. He would help the Jets culture too because he's a leader. You know, I'm just tired of. We know he's not the long term answer. Get me a long term answer here. Kyler Murray is still young enough. I'm not sure if he's good enough, but he's still young enough to be a long term answer for the Jets. I'm not sure if that's the direction they're going to go though. You don't get Kyler Murray as a stopgap here, right? And then draft another quarterback next year. You could do that, but I think that would be a waste of time and money. Um, so I don't know. It's a really good question. I think he's going to go back to Minnesota. I really think that they'll give JJ McCarthy another year or two to develop, and because the Vikings have the other pieces, you know what I mean, for contention. It's stunning that they weren't in the playoffs this year, right? With all the talent they have around them. The Jets, while they do have, here's the Sam Darnold comparison, right? The Jets do have talent on the defensive side, and they have talent. They need a little more talent on the offensive line, but they have talented wide receivers and they have a talented running back, right? So they do have those pieces. Will they sign, their talented running back? I don't know. I mean, Jets have a lot of big decisions to make, and I just don't think their decisions at this point should be short term. I think every decision they make should be let's build something where we can contend for the next 5, 10 years, like a lot of teams do. You know, I'll say this real quick, and we could jump over to the NBA. I think that Art Rooney Jr., who doesn't have a ton to do with the Steelers, but they caught them asking, well, now that you have Mike McCarthy and you know, are you now gonna rebuild? The Steelers gonna rebuild, and he jumped on it right away. He says, "We will never ever rebuild," you know. But that sometimes with teams' mentality gets them kind of stuck in that mediocrity, right? 9-8, 10-7. You get bumped in the first round. That happens in several sports, right? That happens definitely in the NBA. We see that with some teams which is why the Bucks probably want to get rid of. I don't think get rid of is the right term, but you know what I mean. Want to trade Giannis because they're kind of stuck in that. We're gonna, just barely get in, and we maybe will win the first round, but typically they've been losing it. So I think that I don't want to see the Jets go that way, and kind of get stuck in that mediocrity. Build something where you're gonna legitimately contend for a Super Bowl. Someone posted this, Kenny. I'll say the last thing. A friend of mine on Facebook, he posted that the teams that are undefeated in the Super Bowl, and he put the Jets there. The Jets are 1-0 in the Super. They're undefeated. The fact that we haven't been there in 56 years, it's a mere tiny detail, right? Well, we all 1-0. I don't remember that Super Bowl, Kenny. I'd like to see the Jets in a Super Bowl in my lifetime here. So anyway. All right. Before I pull up your chart, now I know you said you haven't seen this brawl, but it was almost inevitable that something with switching over to the NBA. It was almost inevitable that something bad was going to happen because the NBA has had some scraps here in the last couple of weeks where some pushing and shoving leads to more pushing and shoving, and then other guys start to get into it. But I mean, you see how many assistant coaches there are on both teams, right? All of them flood on the court, and they usually get, yeah, they usually they usually can break it up. This one was a little different because once Jalen Duren pushed the guy in the face, forget it. He was really angry, and then you have Miles Bridges jumping into this, and then he keeps breaking away. And so it starts you could sense it building and building. And obviously I didn't see the game live, but then when you see Isaiah Stewart, who's been in some scraps, right? Famous for trying to get at LeBron James, several years back. I mean, he starts throwing haymakers. And these are two big guys, right? And they're throwing punches at each other, which you rarely, if ever, see. in the NBA, that thing almost really exploded into something that could have spilled over into the stands. And I thought that I really like. I think Adam Silver is a great commissioner, right? There's some things he could probably do a better job in, but we talked about that last week. How the job of a commissioner can be very difficult. I thought he went very soft, on the penalty because he gave Stewart 7 games. Stewart should have gotten at least 10. I'm sorry. You've been saying, hey, don't come off the bench. And both teams actually did a good job not coming off the bench, except Stewart. He jumps off the bench and he blindsides, Bridges. Um, and I think that Bridges, because he kept escalating, because he pushed during this whole scrap. Um, and then he's trying to go after other players on the Pistons. So I think he got 4 games, either 4 or 5 games. And now
Yeah, four.
he got 4. Now the Hornets are contending. So that's a big deal. He's a very good player for them. And certainly the Pistons are still the number 1 seed in the East. So they're contending. That's a big deal for them. Stewart's a very productive player for them. So what did you make of it? I know you didn't see the highlights, but what do you make of how the NBA, they can't go back to the way it was in the 70s and 80s, right? And even in the 90s where, these awful fights can break out. It's so close to where the fans are at.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I feel like we haven't seen like I mean, obviously the Malice at the Palace is like the epitome of
Yeah.
really bad, brutal NBA fights.
Yeah.
But even a little bit before that and slightly after that, there was a lot of like the reputation of the NBA kind of being like in that vein. Like I remember there was that preseason game where the Kings and the Lakers
Yeah.
are having a crazy fight and it's
Yeah.
spilling into the locker room.
Yeah.
And I feel like the NBA has done a good job of kind of turning that reputation around and also just kind of keeping everyone like leaving the bench area. It's a big deal now.
Yeah.
But then you see that and it's like, oh man, that's not good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do think maybe a little bit harsher suspensions would have helped because I saw like what the guys are losing and it's like I think Stewart's I think I saw a push notification. I think Stewart's losing like 700,000.
A lot of money. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and 4 and 7 games in the NBA is like, yeah, you're out for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do think they probably could have cracked down a little bit harder, especially since Stewart left the bench
Yeah.
area.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I do hope that this is kind of like oh yeah,
Yeah.
let's not do this anymore.
I go back to David Stern. I don't want to compare Adam Silver to David Stern. David Stern was probably the best commissioner ever in the NBA, at least. But and I told that story when we talked about the whole Gilbert Arenas, incident with the guns and everything, and how he had originally given him, I think, I don't remember the number, but let's just say he originally gave him 10 games, but then he called him up and brought him in his office and asked him one question. How did you get those guns to DC? And he said, well, they were on the plane with me. He said, okay, you're done for the rest of the season, because he knew the seriousness of that, right? I mean, you transported firearms on an NBA chartered flight, across state lines, many state lines, and so I think that Silver should have brought Stewart in and said, "What, you were thinking what?" And maybe he did. I don't know that. Listen, 10 games. You're gonna sit down for 10 games because we don't come off the bench here. You come off the bench, that's it. You were afraid that Bridges was gonna do what? There were a lot of guys surrounding Bridges. He wasn't gonna get at Duran. You know what I mean? But Stewart has to take it upon himself to come in and kind of blindside him. Um, I want to get into this now because I want you to go into what I'm seeing is tanking in the NBA, and Sacramento's tanking, Utah's tanking, Washington is tanking. You know how you know it? It's the same way our coach for the Knicks used to do, how he would, one player would get hot and he'd sit him down right away. These guys are though doing it right in front in plain sight. They're sitting down all their starters in a close game for the fourth quarter. And Sacramento did it the other night. Sacramento has some very good players, but they're sitting them all in a bit, and they have the camera panning on them, and they're sitting there like, why are we? This is a close game. Why are we sitting on the bench in the fourth quarter? And so that obviously is coming from above. Players don't tank. Players don't want to tank. They want to play and they want to win. So the NBA that's creep back in. Now, listen, why is Trey Young not playing for Washington? Is he still that hurt? When he was with Atlanta, he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to be back in another week or so." Um, and now Anthony Davis is still out. We get that. Probably out also. Go ahead. Yeah, let me bring up
Well,
your chart and you talk. Go ahead.
well, with Anthony Davis, I don't know if you saw like kind of the weird conflicting reports because basically immediately the Wizards are like, yeah, he's out for the year. But then he's like, well, no, I'm not. I'm good. Like I could play.
I
Um, so I don't know. I do agree. Now, I understand it a little bit this year because it's supposed to be a very talented draft class. Um, like they say multiple all-stars, like I don't think it's the level of like a 2003 or a 1996, but
right.
like there's a lot of people that expect like the top 4 or 5 to be like hits on in the NBA. But it is still an issue because I have the standings up here. Sacramento's 12 and 44. The Pelicans are 15 and 41. The Jazz are 18 and 37. The Wizards are 14 and 39. The Pacers are 15 and 40. The Nets are 15 and 38. Like out of those teams, aside from the Pacers who have won 2 straight, the Kings
Pacers
have
aren't tanking.
lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Pacers aren't tanking. They're just bad because their best player is hurt.
And
I mean, we saw that with the Knicks.
If Rick Carlisle got a call from upstairs to say, "Hey, tank," Rick Carlisle, I'm sure hung up the phone.
Oh
And
yeah.
probably just said, "Yeah, go ahead and fire me then." There's you could tell by the way they played against the Knicks the other night, they're not tanking.
Um, Dallas has lost 8 straight.
Yeah.
They're 19 and 34. Like, so that kind of brings in my tiers here. The bottom tier, we're not tanking. Winky face. These teams are tanking.
Yeah.
I mean, Portland's tanking. The Nets are tanking. The Pacers, they're just bad. So as a
Yeah.
result of losing Halliburton, they're tanking.
Yeah.
The Jazz, the Pelicans, the Kings, the Wizards, and the Mavs. The Mavs is kind of to me the most shocking one. And we kind of alluded to it last week. I mean, is Kyrie gone now? Like, I don't know. And like you have Cooper Flag, and let's say you end up with a good lottery pick again. You got a nice core, and but also you could have had Luka Doncic on top of that. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the
I,
next tier.
I don't
Oh,
think
sorry.
Kyrie Irving is going to play this year now.
Yeah,
Why would they play him? You know?
I agree.
Yeah.
Um, the next tier is play-in spot would be disastrous, and I would go kind of in both ways here. For example, I think if the Timberwolves make the play-in, it's disastrous because they had such a bad year,
Yeah.
especially when you're looking. Um, I had seen a couple of people talking about with the Super Bowl how Dan Campbell of the Lions had said like, yeah, I don't know, this might have been our only shot to make the Super Bowl when they lost the conference championship game a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Could the Timberwolves have missed their only chance to actually lock in a championship? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not.
I have no
But
idea
if
what's wrong
they
with them. Yeah. Yeah.
they're another team, like if they have a quick exit in the playoffs, do they start looking at possibly getting Giannis? I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, speaking of which, I say the Bucks. I think if they are in the play-in, either one of two things happens. Either they're because right now they are out of the playoffs fully, and I think that's good for them because I think that's a signal to like, yeah, let's trade Giannis, let's start over.
Yeah.
However, I think if they make the play-in and potentially like go into the first round, um, mess around with Detroit, like that could be worse because they think that they have a shot, and if they were healthy with Giannis and they add another piece, I just think they need to get They need to trade Giannis and kind of restart.
Yeah.
Um, Memphis, I think that they need to fully tank, like full send it. Same with the Hawks. The Hawks had a weird trade deadline,
Yeah.
but I think that they also like actually the next three teams, the Hawks, the Heat, and the Bulls, they seem to it seems to always be those three teams in the play-in. And being in like NBA mediocrity, it's a hard place to be. Like the Knicks were there for a long time. It's hard to get better, and it's also hard to be worse.
Yep. Yeah.
So you kind of need one or the other.
Yeah.
And then the Clippers. I think honestly at this point, this is more of a positive for them. Um, After starting out 6-21, they are 26-28. Um,
They won again the other night. Yeah.
yeah. So I think at this point, like you gotta at least get to that sixth spot. The sixth spot right now is held by the Lakers, but it's a long climb up, and I mean we know that with the NBA, but I think it's still possible. Um, Still doesn't make any sense as to why they traded Harden, but that's a story for another day.
Can I
Um,
make one quick comment on those last four teams? There's a pattern I see there that those four teams have excellent coaches, and those coaches are just getting the most out of. I don't know what the Bulls were doing at the deadline, getting rid of their two best players, and they really didn't get a ton back in return. But these coaches, from Quinn Snyder to Eric Spoelstra to Billy Donovan, um, I mean, all of these coaches, and to Tyronn Lue, obviously a championship coach. And so while none of these teams have getting far in the playoffs talent, but I think these coaches are not going to allow them. I think you have them in this category exactly right.
yeah, yeah, especially like in I don't think any of these coaches are in danger of losing their job,
No.
and but they need the different talent, and I think there are two ways to do it. Either you do really well or you do really bad.
Yep.
Um, Being in the plane is not where you want to be. The NBA is in steps. Like we say it a lot. Like you can't go from being worst to first. Like you don't really see it. You have to kind of take those steps. I
Yeah.
think the Warriors are there. I don't really know what to do with them because I don't know. They're just kind of they're good, not great. Jimmy
Yeah.
Butler's hurt. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. They're a weird team.
Yeah.
Um, the Magic have dealt with a lot of injuries this year, and it's going to take that extra step to go to where they want to be.
Hmm.
The Suns at one point were blistering hot, and they're still good. 32-23 is not bad. Um, but like especially from where they were a couple years ago to where they are now, they're in a good spot. Possibly give a team like a Denver or a San Antonio some issues. It'd be really fun if they faced Houston in the first round and I don't know, gave them a scare.
Yeah.
Imagine they beat Kevin Durant. That would be hilarious. Um, Another team that's in a weird spot is the 76ers. I mean, the Knicks smacked them around
Oh,
yesterday.
49 points.
Um, but like, I don't know. I don't really know what to do with them. And then, of course, Joel Embiid's hurt again. So I don't know. But
Who
shout
is
out
hurt again? What? Embiid is hurt?
Embiid.
Wow.
Yeah, he's where they said he's out until at least after the All-Star break. We'll see
Get
after
out
that.
of here. No, I don't believe
I know
that.
you're so surprised, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, the one that really I want to shout out though is the Hornets.
Yeah.
Um, they're 9-1 in their last 10. Arguably, like the best stretch of basketball I've seen this franchise play. I don't know in 20 years.
Yeah. Easily.
Um, and I don't know if they'll get all the way up to that sixth spot. If they're in the play, and I think it's a good step for them. Um, the next tier, one big step. Um, the Cavs, they're starting to look like they like having James Harden part of that team. They've won
Yep.
5 straight.
Yep.
They seem to have righted the ship a little bit. Um, the Rockets are still right there with Kevin Durant. Denver has Jokic; they'll always be up there.
Yep.
The Lakers will be very interesting. Um, I think they're probably a more interesting story in the offseason than in the regular season and playoffs, but they're a very intriguing team.
Yeah.
The Raptors also, because I don't know why they're good, but they're good. Um,
Scotty Barnes. Yeah.
yeah, like it's so interesting. But really, these teams, I think they're taking a big step, and they might end up being the team that can take like being in the 3, 4, 5, 6 area, and even if they stay there, they could make some noise in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Um, but right now, I think the top five, you got OKC, you got the Pistons, you got the Knicks, you got the Celtics, and you got the Spurs.
Yeah.
Hard to argue any of these teams right now.
Yeah.
We've mentioned it before. I think the Knicks have really righted the ship. Um, OKC is still really good. I mean, they're not going to be like historically great, but still 42-13. They're 3.5 games up on uh, anyone in the West.
Yeah.
I think that shows a lot. Detroit is the team that scares me the most in the East as a Knicks fan. Um, like I know the Celtics, they've had a really good year despite not having Jason Tatum, and who knows if Tatum will be back. But Detroit's the team that I'm like, oh no. And the Spurs, I think Wemby is going to have his biggest moment on like the biggest stage this year to date.
Yeah.
So there
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah. I love it. We'll post this out there. Um, Let me ask you a couple of questions. Um, Detroit really just like took care of business again against the Knicks on Friday night. The Knicks bounced back to take care of business. That to me was one of the best games they played all year from beginning to end against the Celtics, even though I know they won by 49. Against the Sixers, I thought the game against the Celtics, it was just a complete game. Um, Expand on that because you texted me that you're worried now about Detroit when they got spanked like that, about a month before. Us in that kind of little text chain we have, you guys were downplaying that. You were like, hey, yeah, not a big deal. Now you think it's a big deal. So expand on what the Knicks need to do next time they play Detroit here.
I don't think they need to like destroy them, but I think they need to be in the game more.
Yeah,
Um, Now, an interesting thing with Detroit is that I think they're like 8-1 or something like that on the second game of back to back,
yeah,
which like you normally don't see, but also like Detroit's a young team, so that's not that surprising.
right,
Um, Now, part of I think the Knicks losing so badly was not having OG, not having Karl
right.
Anthony Towns,
Yep,
and I can understand that.
yep,
Um, But what would concern me is a team that's kind of still playing with house money. Like I know that they're a good team and all, but like Detroit playing loose against the Knicks team in the playoffs where the Knicks have very high expectations. They win a couple games and a series like that can get away from you very quickly.
yeah,
And that's the thing that kind of concerns me.
yeah,
Now, the Knicks last year couldn't beat one of the top two teams at all. And they still made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. So
yep,
like beating one of the teams that they couldn't beat at all along the way. So like in that regard, I think that they still have a path to make it. But I think just to kind of show Detroit who's boss, I think that they probably need not even a victory, but at least keeping game close.
yeah. Detroit has got some swagger. I think they have taken on Cade Cunningham's personality, which is just tough and steady. He doesn't seem to me to be a big talker, out there. But boy, oh boy, he is tough. And, he's one of those players you look at and say, man, I wish he was on my team, right? Although I'm totally happy with this Nick team. Yeah, I think that, these first two games were in Detroit, right? So I would assume the next two games will be at the Garden. And so I'll challenge our Garden fans to show up and show out when the Pistons come in and just show them that we do have that home court advantage. The Knicks have played great at home this year. Um, Speaking of the Knicks, so they wind up here. It's not the halfway point at all, NBA All-Star break here. But it is now when they come back from the break, it's a sprint after that, right? Because the Knicks are 35 and 20 with 55 games now under their belt, which means it's not a ton more games left, right? That's 20. 27 more games left in the season. Um, and so I loved I don't know if you've been catching or you caught any of the game last night. Jose Alvarado, these first couple of games, what a good pickup, right? And I think, I like the pickup, but it's not a second guess. I liked it when they got him because he's tough. He's tough defensively. And I don't know how many steals he had last night. I think he had 4 or 5 steals, but he's hitting. I don't expect him to be draining 3-pointers like he did last night. I think he was just feeling. I think he had 8 3-pointers, last night. I think he was just feeling it. But I think on the defensive side and being able to guard the way he does, once they get OG back, who's their best defensive player, I think that now you've got really a complete team. I don't think we can count on Bridges. Um, I'm sorry, not Bridges, McBride to come back. From the injury that he has. If he does that, great. That'll be a bonus. But I think now the team has some length and some depth and some veteran length and depth. And by the way, Diawari is playing great. He's draining 3-pointers all over the place, which for his size, I'm like, wow, this guy could shoot. And so I'm really liking how this team is coming together. And they're gonna need everybody for a long, deep playoff run. You're gonna need everybody. And Karl Anthony Towns played great last night. And again, a night where why I was so glad they didn't trade him, right? Because he's a nightmare matchup for most teams. Most teams don't have a guy like that. The Sixers without Embiid guarding him, they didn't have anybody like that. He kind of, now they foul him a lot and it doesn't get called. I think because he complains a lot, but he still, man, had his way last night, and he still right now is leading the NBA in rebounding. So give me your assessment of the Knicks through these first 55 games overall and what you're looking at now.
What a roller coaster, I think is the easiest
Yeah,
way to say it.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think that, I mean, we see it a little bit in the NBA in general, where teams that are good start out good, have like a weird swoon where you're like, I don't know if they're still good. And then they kind of figure it out at the end. And I think the Knicks are showing that. Seeding to me doesn't matter as much. Like some people might crash out if they're in second, third, first place. I don't care. I don't think it matters. Um, but I do like the way that this team is coming along. Jose Alvarado he was the first guy ever, I think, like 25 points, 8 threes made, and 5 steals with under 30 minutes. Like,
it's amazing. Yeah,
yeah, you're not going to get that type of production all the time, but I think having that fun spark off the bench is something that you really need, especially in when you get to like the really grueling parts of the playoffs where it's like you feel like the team is dragging. You need that guy that gives the spark.
yeah.
Um, the biggest thing with the Knicks is they just got to stay healthy. They got to get guys healthy. They got to like. I'd rather lose a couple games here in March and April because Josh Hart and OG Anunoby aren't playing, and
Yeah.
win those games in
Oh
May and
yeah.
June.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean this is going to be fun. And the expectation is to get to the finals this year, And so it's going to be fun. Hopefully it'll be a warm spring at least basketball wise. Our hockey teams are not going to be in it. Well, our hockey team, the Rangers, aren't going to be in it. That's a story for another day as they are retooling, as they said, but they've dealt away all their good players. So all right, let's talk a little baseball. Because is it today that pitchers and catchers report?
Yesterday, that was for
Yesterday.
the Yankees. Yesterday,
Yesterday. Awesome. Well, a couple of things happened in baseball. Chris Bassett signed with the Orioles. Big deal for you?
uh, he's good. I mean, uh, I think the Orioles still their biggest thing is I don't think they have that bona fide ace, but they'll still be a really good team. I'd expect a lot of them to bounce back, like the Gunnar Hendersons of the world, um, Jackson Holiday,
Yeah.
and then also you have Pete Alonso.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
worried about the East because I think the East is going to be really hard right
Yeah.
now. A lot of the projections have the Yankees finishing with 87 wins and in fourth place. So.
Yankees are going to have more than 87 wins. Come on. Especially when their pitchers come back. Marcell Ozuna signs with the Pirates. The Pirates finally trying at least to spend a little money here. Is that a big deal? Probably not.
It'd be a bigger deal if they actually like sign someone to like a 3 year deal, but I
Yeah,
think the biggest fallout from that is going to be Andrew McCutchen, who
yeah.
like he kind of scrubbed his social media of the Pirates. It's also weird because like I'll ask you this: is Andrew McCutchen a Hall of Famer?
Borderline. MVP year. I mean, he's another guy. Those he seemed to get like when he got traded to the Yankees, he seemed like he got old. You know, so I think his first probably almost 10 years maybe was really good. His last five or six, not so much. Bounced around a lot.
Yeah, I feel like he's been old for a while, and like
Yeah.
it seemed like the fitting ending for him to end his career in Pittsburgh, but it's feeling more and more like that may not happen. And it would be weird for him to like go back to Pittsburgh and then go to like, I don't know, Chicago or something like that. Like
Yeah.
it just seems kind of odd.
Yeah. Because he's still a free agent, right? He's not signed with the Pirates, if I'm not mistaken. Uh,
Yeah, I believe so.
I mean, signing Ozuna, they're probably not going to sign him now, which is kind of off. I have something interesting for you, and then we'll hit these remaining kind of free agents that are out there, some interesting players. But let me pull this up as Justin Verlander. That was such an interesting signing for the Tigers, right? They're bringing back Justin Verlander for this 1 year. So Justin Verlander's first game was on July 4th, 2005. It was the Tigers against the Indians. Let me just rattle off the lineups for that day. For the
Ooh.
Tigers, it was Brandon Inge, Placido Polanco, Chris Shelton, Maglio Ordonez, Dimitri Young, Craig Monroe, Omar Infante, Vance Wilson was the catcher, ex-Met, and Nook Logan. I don't remember Nook Logan. And Verlander was the starter. Jason Davis was the starter for, at the time, the Indians. Here was the Indians lineup. Grady Sizemore, Coco Crisp, Travis Hafner, Victor Martinez, Ben Broussard, Johnny Peralta, Jody Garrett, Jose Hernandez at third base, Alex Cora, and Jason Davis was the starter. That's amazing. I don't think any of those guys are still playing, right?
No,
Yeah.
those are
Yeah.
some fun names though.
Fun
Travis
names.
Hafner. That's a
Travis
fun
Hafner
name.
was a good player. He had some big years. And Grady Sizemore, I thought he'd be a manager again somewhere. Maybe he will, again. But he also, if he hadn't gotten hurt, he was definitely on track to be a Hall of Famer. Um, all right.
Well,
Yeah.
on the Verlander front,
Yes.
he now becomes because obviously Tarek Skubal's there. The two of them are now the eighth duo in the last 20 years to have multiple Cy Youngs among both of them.
Yeah.
Can you rattle off a few other teammates that are like that?
Well, I think that year that half year he was with the Mets, right? Him and Scherzer.
That's one. The Mets actually have three on this list.
The Mets had three, huh? Well, they had DeGrom also
That's
on
another.
that team. Um, gosh, maybe Tom Seaver when he was with the. I don't know. I don't know. Hit me with him.
Um, Go back to well, actually, sorry, they have four. The 05-07 Mets, Tom Glavine and Pedro Martinez.
Okay. Okay.
2008 Mets, Pedro Martinez and Johan Santana.
Okay.
Um, and then the Dodgers have a lot here. Scherzer, Kershaw.
Yeah.
Um, the 23 and 24 Rangers with Scherzer and DeGrom. And then last year, the defending champions, they have Blake Snell and Clayton Kershaw.
Oh wow. Okay. Wow, that is so interesting. So interesting. We'll have plenty of time for a baseball preview, but I will say this, man. The Tigers starting rotation, just their first three. That's a World Series. Can you imagine you go into the LCS, the League Championship Series, and you got to face Skubal, Valdez, and then Flaherty, and oh by the way, maybe a revived Justin Verlander. I'm sure they'll be careful with him throughout the year so that he'll be pitching for them in October. That that is one heck of a rotation, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if it's as good as Freed, Rodon, Cole, Schlittler.
Yeah,
So
that there you go. This is why I don't know who said the Yankees would win 87 games. That's ridiculous. All right, let me bounce some names off you. Zach Gallen to me is still the best out of some of these players that we may not see in the majors this year. I think some of these guys, um, but Zach Gallen definitely deserves to be on a team. Why hasn't he signed yet?
I don't know. I don't. That's the one that kind of confuses me. I feel
Yeah,
like he's primed to be like, I don't know. You always get like the so and so is going to be out for 2 months because he worked up too quickly, or
yeah,
someone tore their UCL and is getting Tommy John. And they'll be on the
yeah.
phone. Zach Gallen will be their first call.
Yeah, I mean, how many teams need a? I mean, I'd say he's at least he's probably a number three starter right now. I mean, he was the ace for a couple of years with the Diamondbacks, but I'd say now maybe he's a number three starter. Still a very good, serviceable starting pitcher. How many teams can use that? And now he's not going to come with a hefty price tag, I don't think. Although Chris Bassett got 19 million for the 1 year, which was surprising for me. Starlin Marte, we may not see him again. I don't know. He just really can't play the field anymore because of his injuries. He can still hit though. Batted 270, 9 homers, I think 30 something RBIs last year. Very limited. He didn't play that much with the Mets last year. Um, Here's a name that I am surprised that is still out there, and I can't imagine that the Dodgers won't bring him back, and that's Kike Hernandez.
Yeah, that's a weird one. I would assume that he probably doesn't want to go anywhere else. So
Yeah,
he's probably just going to wait until the Dodgers need him.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Michael Conforto, I mean, he had an awful year last year. Have we seen maybe the last of him, or you think a team will take a flyer on him?
I think he's done. I think he's been done for a few years. He was bad with the Dodgers last year.
He really was. Just that those injuries really killed him. Reese Hoskins, I'm surprised he's out there because he actually had a pretty good year last year, but the Brewers definitely don't have a spot for him.
That's a weird one too, because
Yeah.
like I think a lot of the teams that could have used him, say like the Red Sox, the Orioles, honestly, the Mets would still be a good fit.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. Jeff McNeil's not on the team anymore, so they could bring him in. You know,
yeah,
yeah, I think the Mets are interested in Ty France. He's another one that's I didn't write his name down, but when you said first baseman, I'm surprised he's not signed yet. He's been decent over the years. I'll rattle off a couple of journeymen for you and see if will they have a job, and that would be Jesse Winker or Tommy Pham.
as long as he's Tommy Pham's not on the same team as Jock Peterson, maybe. Um, Tommy Pham though, he's been a journeyman. I think he's been with 10, 11 teams.
Yeah,
I want
yeah,
him to go to a team he hasn't been to, so he can continue. He'd be a good
yeah,
immaculate grid one.
yeah.
I don't know. I think both of them they'll have a spot. Winker will have a spot.
Yeah, I mean Winker, he just was injured most of the year last year, but when he played year before and last year, he played well. The one that surprised me, I said this to you before we came on, and as Nestor Cortez is still out there.
He's one that surprises me the most. Like I know he's not like an all-star anymore, but even the Yankees, like he's done not just starting but relieving. I'm surprised that no one's kind of looked at him.
Yeah.
Maybe everyone just has 2024 game one of the World Series stuck in their heads. They're like, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, come on, we can't hold that against him. Come on. Uh, Here's three names that in my opinion, we might not see them in the majors this year, and that's Jose Iglesias, Wilmer Flores, one of my all-time favorite players, and another one of my all-time favorite players, Justin Turner. Um, I mean, Turner could walk away now, and it's been a great career, right? Not, I don't think Hall of Fame, but great career. What about Iglesias, Flores, and Justin Turner?
They have like May signings written all over them. I don't know if we'll see Justin Turner though.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I feel like he seems like the Anthony Rizzo of this year, where it's like he's only not going to retire just because no one is picking
yeah,
him up.
yeah.
But I don't know. Could be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting names. I agree with you. And Wilmer Flores can still hit, but I'm surprised that the Giants didn't bring him back because he's had some decent years with them. Um, Iglesias didn't have a great year last year, so I think that I mean he had a tough time finding jobs before the Mets brought him up. And I think it's been a good career for him, you know. So if he walked away now, I think, it's fine. I think he probably could still play and certainly help a team with leadership in the clubhouse and everything. Last quick thing on baseball, and we'll certainly be talking some WBC. I committed that I'll be watching that. But now you got Corbin Carroll, who would have been a big part of the WBC. He's going to be out, and so is Francisco Lindor. And notice I'm saying that I'm not panicked about Lindor because he's been healthy throughout his Met career and throughout his Cleveland career too. And I'm glad he's got this getting this surgery now. Both of them have this hamate bone, and they're both having surgery on it. But it says they both will be ready for opening day. That's all I'm concerned about. So Lindor won't play for Team Puerto Rico, and Carroll won't play for Team USA. Big deal, either one of those?
No, I would be more worried about them being ready for the regular season.
Yeah,
Um, because yeah, Lindor, I know he was also having insurance issues too, so
yeah,
he probably wasn't going to get there. But that's probably why, is because of the issue in his
right.
hand. So,
So he probably
but
he
yeah,
wasn't going to play anyway. That's right. I forgot about that. Right, he wasn't going to play anyway. Okay, okay. Um, all right. So lots to talk about with baseball coming up. This is going to be a fun spring with the World Baseball Classic. I'm looking forward to it. Are you ready to get to some inspiration?
let's go.
So the Minnesota Twins signed Liam Hendricks yesterday to a minor league contract. On with the Twins, he'll probably make the major league team, I'm guessing. But Hendricks actually could still kind of pitch. He pitched with the Red Sox a little bit last year. I don't think he pitched at all in 2024. Um, and so Hendricks, though, is still such an inspiration to me. The way he overcame non-lymphoma, Hodgkin's disease, cancer, it was such a whirlwind for him, and he was so transparent about it. And being a cancer survivor myself, I realize that everybody's journey is different, right? That not everybody is going to readily talk about it. A lot of folks want to get as far away from it as possible when they survive it. But then there's, a big fraction of people, Ken, that I always wish would talk more about it to inspire others, to help others. Um, I couldn't help but be saddened. I never watched Dawson's Creek, but I knew the actor James Van Der Beek because he was it Friday Night Lights or one of those football movies he played in as well. But to see him die from the same cancer that I had, and at a little bit of the same age, just about the same age that I got diagnosed, he didn't lose a battle, because he readily talked about his struggle, and he readily talked about his faith and how that got him through that. But it just makes me grateful, that God chose to heal me, right? So with Hendricks, you see the same thing at a young age. And while he said he didn't want to be defined by that, he certainly goes around speaking, to other cancer patients and cancer survivors about what he went through and how fast he came back and was back in the major leagues that same year. So seeing him get another shot here at 37 years old, still very young, but 37 starts to be a little bit old as for a baseball player. Um, but if he can still pitch every once in a while out of the bullpen and be productive, he would help that team. I'm not sure that team is going to contend this year. In fact, I don't think they will. But Liam Hendricks, seeing him get back into the major leagues, inspiration for this week.
Wow, yeah, that's great. I do love his story and also the perseverance because most people would be like, okay, I made my comeback and I'm good.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
but
yeah,
he's still willing to play, so good for him.
yeah.
Um, my inspiration actually comes from the Olympics. The opening ceremonies were last week, so um, but I wanted to talk about the two flag bearers for the Olympics for the U.S. because they both have interesting stories. So I didn't know this until I looked it up, but basically like all of the Olympians vote for who they want to do, as well as like some of like the U.S. Olympic Committee, and usually it's like a male and a female like that lead the charge. Like I think the last one, last Summer Olympics, if I'm not mistaken, was LeBron for the men. I don't remember who the woman was, but
Yeah.
um, the female I'll start with. Her name's Erin Jax, um, and she was this is her second time she's a speed skater. And what makes her such an interesting person is that 2022 she won the gold medal for individual speed skating. I don't remember which one. And she became the first black player in U.S. history to win a Winter Olympics gold medal,
Hmm.
which is crazy to think in 2022.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, sure enough, that's her claim to fame. And as far as the guy, his name is Frank Del Duca. He is a bobsledder, the first bobsledder to be one of the flag bearers in 70 years. Um, and what makes him such an interesting guy is that he actually credits a lot of his athleticism to the Army, as he served in the U.S. Army for several years. And it gave him the stamina, and also he was part of the world class athlete program. So kind of like how we see with football, with like the Army and the Navy. Um, and it gave him the resources necessary to lead. So I just thought it was cool. A little shout out to the Olympics. I know
Yeah.
we haven't really talked much about it, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
good for those guys.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that. I love that. And I love the story behind the flag bearer. You mentioned something that I really like that they do. It's the other athletes that vote, right? Who is gonna hold the flag, right? Who's gonna be their leader? I
Yeah,
think that's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Good story. Good story. I've been tuning in and out on the Olympic. The Summer Olympics I'm more into, than the Winter Olympics. Probably when the men's hockey gets started. I'll probably be a little bit more in on that. But most of the Winter Olympic games on sports that really interest me. I suppose we should still talk about it, right?
yeah. I mean, it's still a very big stage.
Oh,
So
yeah, 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 yeah,
um,
yeah,
like we watched it a little bit over the weekend. Like we watched some like figure skating and
yeah,
speed skating.
yeah,
And another big story I know has been Lindsey Vonn, who
yeah.
tore
Oh my
ACL
gosh,
before the
yeah,
Olympics and then like shattered her leg. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, we should probably get more into that next week because there's a lot to unpack there with Lindsey Vonn and the toughness, but. Is there also something there where athletes can't really walk away? They have such a tough time walking away. We've seen that so much with athletes that stay a little bit too long. So what is that balance? And Lindsey Vonn, she had gotten into great shape, and then she had that spill, and then with a torn ACL, skiing. I mean, that's
this is insane.
that's insane. It really is. But God bless her. I mean, all right. So we got some stuff to talk about next week, obviously. And the NBA All-Star game. You're gonna have to convince me I should watch it. Should I watch it? I mean, is it gonna be different this year? I mean,
Yeah, the format's different because it's
yeah,
USA versus the world.
right. I
But
don't I have no idea how that's working. How's that gonna work?
there are basically there's three teams. There's two USA teams, one stars, one stripes, and then the world. And they're doing like a mini tournament. So like basically like I don't know. I think it's probably to the two USA teams are playing each other, and then the winner plays the world, and then like um
All that
yeah,
is on Sunday?
yeah, and they're like it's like was it last year that they did the four teams, the
Yeah,
Rising Stars team, and then
right.
the
Yeah.
others. It's basically like that. They're like it's like a mini tournament. I'm not
Okay.
that interested in it, but I don't know, it
Yeah.
might be fun.
Will they play hard?
No,
Even the players from the world, you don't think will play hard?
I think the players in the world will play hard, and then they'll smoke the U.S. teams.
Because the U.S. won't play hard. Oh gosh. All right, and this is on NBC. I think it's starting earlier, right? On Sunday, I think it's like 5 o'clock, something like that.
Yeah,
So it's starting earlier. I might tune in. I'll say that. I don't. I mean, all the dunk contests and all that's still on Saturday, right? Um, so I'm not sure. I'm interested in seeing what Damian Lillard does. Since he's hurt, he's in the shooting, right? The 3-point contest. But I don't know, man. It's a great concept. If you just did one game, USA versus the world, and they went all in, all at it, I'd probably be a little bit more interested. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. It's a shame what the NBA All-Star Game has become, to the point, I mean, to the point where you see with the Pro Bowl that they're playing flag football. No shot on flag football. Very, very popular, but I mean, really? I can't remember the last time I tuned in. So, so we'll see. Baseball's the only one we have to hold on to. All-Star Game. Yeah. All right, buddy. Take us home.
All right, this is Kenny Squared End.
Kenny.
Sports on the Positive Tip. We'll see you guys next week.